so unmeasurable. So we thank him for using our hair products. And his name is nobody but Mr. Jerry.
Well, that's quite an introduction. I don't know if I should be. I think Paul and I are really excited about using the hair care products. So I just want to. So I want to thank you for that interesting introduction. But at any rate, it's my pleasure
Welcome.
to be here, and I want to thank Redrock and Paul and Kay for having me. And I always get stressed before I speak, so if I get off track a little bit, then it's Kay's fault for inviting me. So, but those of you that may not know of me or heard me speak, my name's Gary Amick. I'm a retired physical therapist. I had my practice in 1981 or 85 and retired about 4 or 5 years ago. And so that's going to be kind of in the middle of my discussion today with y'all. And I I think the purpose of my speak is more personal development and life skills rather than a fundamental issue about Atomy. We're certainly going to bring some of those issues in, but at the same time, I think it's my belief that personal development is really important, and so we just become better humans and better people in general, but also better at what we do, and that's dealing with people. So that being said, I want to praise those that have attended, and are plugged in. And hopefully, if I don't scare many more away, if I can introduce or encourage just one of you to kick this business in the butt and go after it, then it's by far worth it. So thank you for attending and being here. And I want to do something a little more unusual than what I've done in the past. Those that I can't see you, obviously, but those that I can here and online, I want you to tell me if you believe this. How many believe knowledge is power? Can I see a show of hands?
Yes.
Knowledge is power.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. I don't know how many offline say that or not or whatever, but I want to take a little bit of an argument with
I
that.
do, I do.
And I want to say that applied knowledge is power. We can be told and shown and understand a lot of things in our life, but if we don't apply it, then what? So it's applied knowledge that really is important, in my opinion. That's really the emphasis. And so that being said, I want to kind of move on that, again, if we learn something and don't apply it, what was the point? What's the point of learning it? So we can know a lot of things about the fundamentals of Atomy and in our lives, but if we don't do it, what's the point? So the whole purpose to me is to kind of have a little more of a deep down understanding about what we have our hands on, and I'm sure some of you really appreciate that, and others are just learning that aspect about how important Atomy can be in our lives. So the phrase that success doesn't come cheap, but we must pay the price. There's a lot of truth to that, and this is not a get-rich-quick scheme by any means. And my phrase is that it's a simple business, but it's not easy. And so that being said as well, how can we make it better? And that's what I hope to share with you today. Because after all, this is your business. It's not mine. It's not your sponsors. It's not your support team. Now, we have people vested in that, yes, that will help you, yes, because for their success, that has to be done.
Mhm.
So, but it truly comes down to it's your business. And I think that's probably not emphasized enough. So there's a description that's define, learn, and do. Define is what do you want? Now, that's the fundamental of anything we do in life, but certainly it's business. Define what it is. What do you want out of this business? Learn what to do. That's the applied knowledge I was talking about earlier. And then the do part, define, learn, and do. That's the names list, the contacting, the fundamentals, the inviting, the showing the plan, the follow through, the 8 steps basically is the do part. So another question I have for you, in that process, what does STP mean in the 8 step? What does it mean? Anybody want to share?
STP, show the plan.
Show the plan has been mentioned here. I want to challenge that again. I think it's better if we have the attitude of show the potential.
Potential, okay.
Because if we get to know people, which is our fundamental idea of when we do talk to new people for sure, we want to find out what rows their boat, what's engaging to them, what challenges do they have, where are they at this stage in their life. So, and then if we can help fill that potential and fill in the gaps, that to me is a little more, has a little more meat to it than show the plan. Because showing the plan is very important, yes, because that's part of this business. It's the fundamental of this business. But sharing the potential or showing the potential is, I think, a fundamentally more important direction and attitude we can take.
Mm.
So, and that showing the potential really is to make a friend and find the need and how we can help that process. That's going to be the long-term benefit of this teamwork that we're talking about. So if you make a names list, which is also one of the fundamentals of this business, I recommend strongly that you put a name down, not a person. What I mean by that is you instead of putting my mom, my cousin, my brother, my aunt, put names. Because if you put a name, it's actually a little better because you don't prejudge that person, because we all have our issues about people in general. This business is great for them, or this business is not good for them, or my cousin will never do this business. We prejudge the situation. So just a fundamental is make a name, put a name down, let them make their decision, and we don't prejudge them in that process. So there really is no argument that this business works. There's no argument. The only thing is, the only argument is, will it work for you, and will you work the business? That's really the fundamental issue, because every time we go to a monthly meeting or whatever, we are introduced to support and huge organizations, huge leadership in this business. This business works. There's no question about it. It works. But to be a leader of that organization, the fundamental question is, are you going to do this business? But more importantly, you're not alone in doing this business, because a lot of people feel very sheltered and very isolated. And this is a team sport. So it's really important that we work as a team. That's easy to say and hard to do, because for that, as you'll find out a little bit later, we have to be successful as well. And that's the definition of success. Because we don't have that pin level doesn't mean we're not successful. So there's a quote here I want to say. Oh, before I get to that, you might have heard this phrase: no purpose, no goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's NO. NO purpose, NO goals. The modification to that is KNOW. No purpose, no the goals. I thought it was really cute play on words, but it's really true. And if you add that one more step, no purpose, no goals, no success, then you put KNOW. No purpose, no goals, no success. So it's a kind of fun play on words, I thought. But any rate, I want to read a quote. The man who doesn't read good books has no advantage over the man who can't read them. That's from Mark Twain. What does he know? Mm-hmm. But it's true. If we constantly are told one of the 8 steps is to read, and when I am blessed enough to give a presentation here, I always recommend a book. And I believe I've talked about this book, but I want to go into a little more depth about it. And that's cash flow quadrant.
Yeah, that we can see very well.
Robert
Put it in your face.
Kiyosaki. Then I can't see if it comes in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
that's good.
Robert Kiyosaki,
EBSF.
cash flow quadrant.
EBSF.
Rich Dad's Guide to Financial Freedom. Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad was his first book, and then this is part 2 of that book. But cash flow quadrant, I want to spend a few minutes on this because I think it's really important as a fundamental to understand one of the big advantages that we have of living in this great country. We have choice. And not a lot of places you can say that around the world, let alone whether we take that choice and apply that choice or not is up to us. But cash flow quadrant, and there's one other thing here. I want to see if you can read. The actual quadrant, can you see that? You make a plus sign, and there's 4 letters, 4 quadrants. Upper left is E, upper right is B, lower left is S, bottom right is I. So there's 4 quadrants. There's 4 quadrants, and the E quadrant have a job. We're employees. That's 95% of us, certainly in this country. The S, which is what I retired from, my wife is currently in, that means we're self-employed. The E's are about 95, the S's are about 5% in this country. We trade our time for money. It's a very active situation. We work, we don't work, we don't get paid. It's very simple, and what drives this economy in this country and ourselves. So there's a lot of emotions come in with that process, and we'll go through some of them. On the right side is a B. That's a business owner. That's about 5% of the right side. The I's are where we'd like to be. That's through the investing side. Money works for us. We can own a business, for example, like a franchise, which would be under B. So if you divide that line down the middle further, the left side for the employee is very time associated. Time is money. I want you to do the math on this if you so choose, but I was told that the average or the idea is that when we grow up in this country at around 20 years old, we go looking for work, if not earlier. But we work about 100,000 hours in our lifetime.
Exactly.
100,000 hours. And now some more, some less, but it's a very active. And so no work, no pay. Now that's 100,000 hours we're working for somebody else. It's great that we have an opportunity to do that, to protect and share and help our family and provide. That's a wonderful opportunity in this country that does that. But what's the next step? If you want to be on the, let me just finish that quadrant. So if you draw a graph, when we're 20 years old, there's an incline, an increase in our basic take-home pay with age and change in jobs or whatever, we get raises and bonuses, whatever. But it kind of plateaus after a while because we're making a little bit of increase each year. But if you're at that same job, typically it plateaus until we retire. And that's 60, 70 years old. It's retirement because our decision, retirement because the job retires us, or it's a physical retirement, whatever it might be. But when that happens, there's a sharp drop in the income, and most people are relying upon what they save, the IRA account, Medicare, whatever it might be, but it's a significant drop for most people by the time that age comes. I don't know if anybody here is affected by that, but it certainly does come into play. So on the other side of the quadrant, the B and the I side, there's a income scale that goes very slowly, kind of initially, and then it starts to increase. And that increase is done with the success of that business and organization through the investments. It's a passive residual income. Most people don't even understand what that really means because they're not in a position where that's affecting them. So we leverage time and money is that process. but it's a passive deal. And like I said, about 5% are own a business that applies to, and about 95% on that side have their income from investments. And actually, multi-level is in that right side of that quadrant in the eyes. That's the whole purpose and goal, is to have a passive residual income. So we fall into that, whether we're not making that money yet and not providing yet, but that's where we have our hands on and an opportunity for which we can continue to grow. I'm not saying quit your job and don't do that. You have to protect yourself, protect your family, but that doesn't mean you don't have bigger dreams and ambitions and goals that you can do something else as well. That's the whole purpose of this. So the E, they work for the system as employees. If you think about it, that's true. When the S's, the self-employed, come in, they are the system. They create their own system to a point. They have their own business. They create their own income, profits, expenses, et cetera, et cetera. On the B side, the business owners also creates their own and creates the system itself. They create the system. And the I's invest they invest money into the system. So there's different aspects fundamentally in that quadrant, the BIS, the E's and S's and the B's and I's. So generally, poor people, as a general rule, they talk about other people. The middle income, generally, think about it, they talk about events that are coming up. I can do this and we can go there, we can take this trip. They more talk about events. When the wealthy, they usually talk about the future. What's next? Where are we going? What are we going to do? So there's a whole different perceptual change in living aspects. That's based on our income. So there was a phrase in the book that was kind of interesting. Robert Kiyosaki said, most people don't have the capacity to think like a millionaire. If you have never been one, how could you? Now, we can have dreams and goals, but they don't have the capacity to think about how a millionaire operates their life and what they do, because that's a real huge learning curve. And the question is, do you? So, that being said, without upsetting you, it's about building a team. The whole point is team. It's not a catchphrase, it's a mission statement. Think about that. It should be your mission statement to build a team, not just to happen, oh yeah, we got to build a team. No, it's part of the success for yourself, your family, in this business, fundamentally, is a team. So that team is a community, isn't it? And every community is a little different. Now, we follow the guidelines of our support team leaders and the agenda and what's on and what the 8-step plan, et cetera. All that fundamental, those components go into our team and our community. And there has to be leadership, because without leadership, that team is impossible to grow. And how do you gain leadership? Well, therein lies the fundamental issue. And referring to the book, he has 4 laws of leadership. Number 1, law of magnetism. We attract what we are, not what we want. Think about that. Law of magnetism. We attract what we are, not what we want. The law of respect. We will follow leaders stronger than us. Kind of human nature. The law of process. To lead tomorrow, we must learn today. The law of relationship. That's the appearance. Are we smiling? Do we have a positive attitude? Do we focus on that person? Do we remember their names? Fundamental, simple things. First, to become a leader, we must become a servant. That's the normal process. Now, a lot of you have heard about the 80-20 rule. We listen 80% of the time, we talk 20%. But if you expand that a little further, when we talk of that 20%, 80% of that talking should be questions. We want to know about that person, find out about them, learn about them. 20% well, they should be questions. And then 20% we actually speak. So our speaking is really a very small part of the growth of this business, if you think about it. We're not telling people what to do. We're showing them, but we're not telling them what to do. We're not giving them, do this, do that, do A, B, C, D. No. We're trying to create a relationship with that person as a team, as a leader. And to do that, you have to have a better perspective on what that person is feeling, going through, what challenges do they have, what are their goals and dreams and aspirations, what are their problems and pitfalls. Those are things that we can help encourage that as a motivator to help them do more so they can make a better success for what their team wants. So the law of relationship is really, really important. So the cash flow quadrant is not about being, it's about doing. It's not what the B's want to do or the I's want to do that makes a difference. It's more how they think. Because the doing side basically is on the left side of the quadrant. Because we trade our time for money. We work, we physically do. We're on the right side of the quadrant. It's about using the matter between our ears, about thinking. So the E is really about security. As employees, that's what the motivation factor is. Great to be in this country. We great at this opportunity because we can create stability. We can create a safety net to a point. But the fundamental issue is about security. And when you talk about the S's, self-employed, really it's about perfection because you're in your own business. You want to be good at what you do. So it has a whole different level to it. And all of us, I think, have a basic fear about losing money. And some people more than others in that fear, but there's a fear aspect to it. And not saying there shouldn't be. But why do people who attend a good school and finish typically do poorly financially? What Robert Kiyosaki says, there's two things. There's an emotional IQ and there's an academic IQ. The emotional is more powerful as a fundamental. The academic is, we learn that process through reading, through experience, through good and bad decisions, but we learn from those. The emotional IQs fail to really make mistakes or even try to do something different because it's too much of a stretch. They're too unsure about themselves. They just don't learn from their mistakes typically. Whereas the academic IQ will learn. We all make mistakes, part of human nature. But are you learning from that mistake? And you apply that to this business as well. Are you learning from the mistakes you make? So, but they're afraid of taking risks. And there's mental hurdles in that fear aspect, and I'm sure we're aware of some of these and probably could add much more to the list. I'm sure you've either said or you've heard others say, oh, I can't do that. I can't afford it. It's not for me. That will never work for me. I'll never be rich. We've heard of these fear and these tactics from a lot of people. That's the emotional IQ. And the good news is that we can change that through and by making new friends who we associate with, learning new ideas, and basic time, and learning that there is possibly a way out. So getting out of those, the emotional intelligence and the IQ, as human beings, well, there's a quote here I want to read too, sorry. We as human beings all have the same emotions. What determines the differences in what we do, quote, do, and what we, quote, have in life is primarily how we handle those emotions. And there's a lot of truth if you think about that. We're creatures of habit. Most choose security over freedom. Understand, You got to take care of your family, and you got to take care of it's a fundamental issue. They avoid risk and not really learn how to manage risk. They play it safe rather than play it smart. I can't afford it rather than how can I afford it? Diversity rather than focus. What will my friends think rather than what do I think? So a team is really, it's a fundamental part of this business. How fast that teamwork grows, what you do to create that trust, that's up to you and us as individuals. But there has to be a support, the group, and there has to be a mentorship available for this to apply. And that's probably the problem because we're dealing with people and we are people. So we bring our strengths and weaknesses in. So the fundamental is we got to focus on what your reason is. Why are you even here? Listen to me bloviate and talk. Remember, if the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. And I want to just use that as a closing phrase that it's been my pleasure to, again, speak in front of you and with you and hopefully not at you. But this is your business, and fundamentally it's your business. And look in the mirror, ask yourself, what can I do different? How can I improve? Is this business going okay? Is this business going how I'd like it to proceed? Talk to yourself, fundamentally ask yourself, and then make a plan to change it if it needs to be changed. I've said in the past, PDCA, plan, do, check, and adjust. You make a plan. Well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, go do it. So you make a plan, then you do it, and then you check the results. How is it working for me? Is it better? Is it worse? And then you change it if it needs to be changed. So PDCA, really, really important on not just yourself, but how are you coaching and handling people in your organizations that you're trying to build teamwork with. Remember, it's about them. You're serving them. That's so fundamentally important in this business. So yes, it's important to have teamwork. Yes, we can put this, but are we doing the work? Is it a get-rich-quick scheme? Absolutely.